Hello everyone, this is Philosophy 72, Modern Philosophy. This is week 3, and we are finishing Descartes, right? We started last week reading from Meditations on First Philosophy, and we were basically in the middle of meditation 2. That's the most important meditation for us. We are reading the three first meditations, right? But and then discourse on metaphysics by Leibniz. We start this week. We finish next time. We are not reading much from that very small book, but it's a very dense. The text is very dense, so we will read from sections 1 to section 13. In any case, I want this to be short. I will also send you another video like I did last week with Descartes on Leibniz and the question of contingency especially, but contingency will be the focus especially next week rather than today. But today let's finish with Descartes, right? We were in the middle of meditation 2 speaking about the illustration of the piece of wax, if you remember, which right highlights the very important fundamental question of a change. I can't go into that too deep today, but change is the main problem in philosophy. It is the main problem in life, the main problem in reality, problem in the philosophical sense. It's not a bad thing. So there is change. However, although there is change and this change is constant, right? Something at the same time remains. Certainly, it does remain for some time. So, in any case, the idea in the illustration of the wax in Descartes is that what I know of the wax was not its physical, material aspects and so on, whereby, remember, everything changes, the taste, the smell. It was hard, then it becomes soft, and so on and so forth. Everything appears to be different, right? And yet it is the same piece of wax. Ultimately, Descartes says you will find that. I didn't say that last time because that was really at the end of our class last time. But what I know is ultimately the idea of the wax. It is a scrutiny that happens by the mind alone. It is let me see the way, sorry, exactly the translation that you will find on page uh, page 7, right? It's not my imagination and so on. As I said, it is, you will find that highlighted. Rather, it is purely a scrutiny by the mind alone. And just above that, the wax that is perceived by the mind alone is, of course, the same wax that I see, touch, and picture in my imagination. In short, the same wax I thought it to be from the start. But the question is, how do I know it? And then remember, because this is the problem in Descartes, we saw this last time. In Meditation 1, he begins by doubting everything that can be called into doubt, right? When and where should I stop? I stop only when I doubt that perhaps I am doubting. When I think that perhaps I'm not thinking, I'm still thinking. Thinking, that's what it is. That's the proof that Descartes is looking for, right? I know that I am precisely because I think. There is no exit from thinking. What am I? What am I? A thinking thing. We saw this last time. A thing entirely made of thought. That was the idea. And then we went into the illustration of the wax, to which I just go back today. Beautiful illustration. And then the question of judgment, right? On the same page, the next column, there is another wonderful example, and I won't go into meditation 3 today because that's what you had to focus on meditation 1 and especially 2. But this is wonderful as well. On the left, the right column, right, the highlighted passage above, where he says, Descartes says, if I look out the window and see, I'm reading, men, people crossing the square, as I had just done, I say that I see. I say that I see the men themselves, just as I say that I see the wax. I say that I see anything. Yet, do I see any more than hats and coats that could conceal machines, robots, right, and so on? I judge that they are men. I judge, right, something that I thought I saw with my eyes, therefore was really grasped solely only by my mind's faculty of judgment. Think about this. What is it to judge? When we judge, the such and such is the case, it's a moment of a decision ultimately, right? We gather from the elements we see what the situation might be, what an object might be, and we say that we know, we say that we see whatever, right? I say that I see a book, right? I mean, right? I mean, in reality, what I see, right? I mean, I say I see a book, but again, that's what I judge ultimately, right? Because if we stayed at the level of what we see, what we hear, the level of perception, we would not be able to say anything, right? When I just in line with the example by Descartes, when I look out the window and say and see a building, yeah, there is a building, a house right there, but I don't see the whole building, I don't see the whole house, I see one wall, maybe one and a half, maybe two, you know, but I say I see a building, but maybe there is no building, maybe there is only a standing wall, right? Let's say there was an earthquake last night, a war, you know, the building is destroyed, there is only standing. I say I see, I judge. That's different from right, really saying something on the basis only of the senses. What we say ultimately is the result of a mental process, the result of precisely it is our judgment. Okay, that's what we do. Okay, so this is very important, you know, really fascinating. You know, there would be more to say, but I want to, I don't want this to be too long. I want to go to Leibniz. Okay, so meditation 3, read that as well. It's highlighted some of the passages for you on the existence of God and how God must exist, Descartes says, and he goes over, you know, the various arguments for the existence of God that were very popular already before him in the Middle Ages. So ultimately, there isn't much. You know, I mean, it is important, but the really revolutionary moment in Descartes is this establishing of the subject, the self, the I think, which we find in meditation 2, in other works too, but we are focusing on this, and you know, the dualism, remember, between the thinking substance and the extended substance, and so on and so forth. I hope that this was clear for you to, in any case, answer. Last time you had, right, the question was both in the discussion board and the journal entry on Descartes. Actually, this time I wanted to go back to Descartes, but both the discussion board entry for week 3 and the journal entry will be on Leibniz next time too. This time all the question of freedom, can we choose freely, and so on and so forth. We see how Leibniz, Descartes too, but Leibniz you know, gives much importance to this, and the journal entry still on Leibniz will be again on the main notion for today of individual substance and the notion of individual substance. Okay, let me make this very clear. This is a very important and difficult distinction. Okay, but Leibniz says that there is an individual substance. Now, remember that for Descartes we had two substances: the thinking substance, for example, the soul or mind, that I am, the thinking substance, the I think, but also, right, the idea of the book, right, and the extended substance, my body, as well as this book, extended, taking up space, right? In Leibniz, and I'm very simplistic here, very cursory, but we have individual substances. I am an individual substance. This is an individual substance, everything. And all individual substances are different from one another. We are not reading another work by Leibniz. If you read around or if you watch videos on Leibniz, you may find the word monadology, which is a book by Leibniz, short book, in which he formulates this idea of the monad, M-O-N-A-D. The monad is an individual substance, one, right? So, but the idea, and I can go deep into that, but the idea is that this individual subs, and there is potentially an infinite number of individual substances, just like an infinite possible worlds for Leibniz. There is also, this. I hope that this is clear. I am an individual substance, but then Leibniz speaks of the notion of notion, idea, concept, the notion of an individual substance. What is the notion of the individual substance that I am? As an example, it includes everything that has happened, is happening, and will happen to me. I mean, because right now, the individual substance that I am here now in front of this screen, right? I mean, present at the present moment, whatever the present is, but the notion of the individual substance that I am includes everything: the past, the present, and the future. Okay, and this will be the problem that we will see more next week, because the question arises then of the question of freedom. Am I free to do things if everything, choose the way I want? But I had to say a few words already about this today. I mean, am I free to make my choices if everything is already included in the individual substance that I am? In any case, look, read the highlighted sections, especially contact me if you have questions. This is difficult, but Leibniz is also a fascinating philosopher. Next time we will see the difference between necessity and contingency. I'm not going into contingency particularly today, but that's a very important word that you will have to concept to consider and grasp. But in any case, to go back to the notion of an individual substance, another word that I want to use now, concept, is this notion of an individual substance, right? Not just the individual substance that I am right now, at this stage, right, of my existence, of my life, but everything that I have done, everything that I'm doing, everything that I will do. This notion, like a blueprint, if you will, right? I mean, this notion of the individual substance can be also called a singularity. Not simply, so individual substance, okay, individuality, but it is a very good concept that I want you to think about, is this of the singularity. Another word, for you to understand what this singularity is like something unique, right? Even two drops of water, Leibniz says, are different from one another. Even, identical twins, even if they look exactly the same, they are different from one another. Two objects, right? Human-made objects that made in the factory, right? I mean, that they look exactly the same, they are different from one another. Ultimately, you can destroy the one and keep the other, right? So each one has its own existence, uniqueness, singularity. And another word that you will actually find in the text in Leibniz, I'll tell you where, on page page 5 of your text in the left column, is thisness. The individual notion, he says, or the individual, the notion of the individual substance, the individual notion, or as I say, the singularity, or you read in the text, right, thisness, in scare quotes, right, thisness. What is thisness? The condition, and ess as a suffix always is the condition, the state, right? Homelessness is the condition of being homeless. Powerlessness is the condition of being powerless, and so on. Thisness is the condition of being this. This. Remember, we started this class with Magritte, the pipe, the painting of the pipe. What is this? This is not a pipe. What is this? This is this. Singularity. It cannot be that. The difference between this and that, this is what Leibniz is pointing out in a difficult way. Maybe, I can't go into that too deeply today, but just to give you a cursory sense of what he's doing in the first sections. Okay, he begins section 1 with the question of perfection, right? And this is also important. Everything differently from Descartes, for whom we are imperfect, God only is perfect. Leibniz says no, everything is perfect its own way. You can't add or take away anything for something to be more. It is perfect, right? We will see this with the next philosopher too, Spinoza. Keep this in mind. Everything. So there are different types of perfections. He says in the first section, great moment. Then section 2 is more about the question of will and reason. The question of very interesting, but more about the ethical maybe domain. I can't go into that, but read the highlighted sections, and then there is also one point, the question of following from the idea that everything is perfect the way it is, then the nothing, and you find this on page 3 in the right column, right, section 6. Okay, the nothing is extraordinary. Everything is the way it is, right? So things may look strange to me, something may look extraordinary, maybe I don't understand it, but it is not disorderly, because everything is orderly. So then Leibniz says that this is because God created the world in such a way, and so on. But in any case, read this, and then and maybe I finish here. I go back to page 5, but in section 7 on page 4, then you have this explanation of the substance, which is kind of difficult. I say a few words about this. Okay, right column. I had to explain what such a substance is. A thing, a substance. Okay. This much is certain: when several predicates are attributed to the same subject and this subject is not attributed to any other, this is called an individual substance. What does that mean? Predicate, subject. What is the subject? The subject, usually like in a sentence, is right, the first word in an affirmative statement. The subject, the logical grammatical subject. The subject is, say, the person or the thing doing something, right? The center, the subject is, the whole sentence is about the subject, right? I am doing this now. I is the subject. My friend called me last night. My friend is the subject. My friend, if I only say my friend, what about your friend? My friend called me from LA last night. Everything that I say about the subject, this is the predicate, the predicates of the subject, okay? Everything that I say about, and I had to say something about the subject. So, That's the idea, that the substance, when several predicates are attributed only to this subject, when you can say something only about this subject and not about any other, then these together makes up the notion of the substance, the individual, the singularity. And this is what you find on page 5 with the example of Alexander the Great. Yes, Alexander the Great was a king, but there were many kings, right? So he was not the only king in history. But when we say, for example, right, that Alexander, right, that's that he would conquer Darius and Porus and so on and so forth. He was the only one to conquer Darius and Porus, right? So this belongs exclusively, uniquely to and in the notion, the substance, the notion of the individual substance that Alexander the Great alone was. Not any other man, not any other person, not any other king, but only Alexander the Great. This is what makes Alexander the Great Alexander the Great. This is his singularity, or again the word is there, his thisness. Okay, what makes this king Alexander different from that king, this person different from that person, and so on and so forth. Okay, so think about this very interesting stuff. Then you have section 9. Then next time I will go over the other sections from 9 to 13, and we will focus especially on the important question of contingency and the difference between contingency and necessity. But at the same time, I will send you the short video on contingency even today. And again, make sure that you contact me if you have questions. Make sure that you do write your journal entry and discussion board entry. Both of them are due by the next Monday. So, I mean, this week, which is still in course, right? I mean, the due date for the discussion board entry and the journal entry for week 2 is Monday, the 28th. For week 3, I'm doing now the video for week 3, then you will have time until Monday, right, October 5th, to do both the discussion board entry and the journal entry. Okay, again, see you next time. Thank you. Bye.